Hey, this is Matt Whitmer from Brody Precision. In this video, we are continuing to look at certificates, and this time looking at something that maybe possibly could make your life a little bit easier with using certificates if you meet the right requirements. So let's jump in and take a look. All right, so this week we're taking a look at Cloudflare. We're just going to do an overview in this video real quick, and then next week we'll look at the details of actually implementing this and what it looks like from an end user's perspective once you have it implemented. So, what is Cloudflare? Cloudflare is one of the largest cloud providers out there right now. You may not have heard the name because they tend to focus more on the infrastructure of the cloud and not necessarily on servers that you could run virtual machines on and that kind of thing. So what we typically call that is a content delivery network. They have servers all over the world, like significantly more than the big guys, that the names that you know of, because the idea is to get the servers as close as possible to your users so that you can deliver content to them as fast as possible. You cache the data there at those local servers and make it easier and faster for the people in that area to get to the data. That's not really what we're after from Cloudflare. What we're more so after is this idea of a reverse proxy and some of the features that come along with letting Cloudflare be a reverse proxy for you. So what this means and what this actually looks like is you have Cloudflare sit between your server, this guy here, and your end user. And so when the user pulls up your domain name, they're actually going to Cloudflare, and Cloudflare is passing that data on to your server and then getting it back and passing it back on to the user in a very quick fashion. They would have no idea that it's actually happening, but because we're letting them do that, we get some additional features on top of it. One of those features, and the feature that we probably care the most about for what we do, is that they give us automatically publicly signed certificates that are trusted by everyone, and these renew every 3 months. We don't have to do anything to get these. So the connection between our user, the browser that they're using, and the Cloudflare server is using these certificates. They're secure. The browser will trust them. You'll never get the red padlock and it have it not work. And these are updated or renewed every 3 months. So they're significantly more secure because you're rotating them regularly than we were used to doing, which it's maybe once a year that we're doing it. Your setup process is, like I said, painless. Really, there's not much setup at all. On this particular part, you have to set up some DNS things. We'll get into that in the next video. But the process for setting up those certificates themselves, very painless. And an important thing to note, though, is this only works for HTTPS traffic and HTTP traffic, not on non-standard ports. So that means that you would have to, if you were going to implement this, you would have to connect to your servers for like a technician and that kind of thing through a remote desktop session or through the IP address of the server instead of the DNS, which is being passed through Cloudflare. The other features that you get alongside this are security and speed related. In running BP Tech Center, we have had issues in the past where we get botted like crazy. Bots sign up for accounts over and over and over and over. They never get access to do anything, but they see that there's a sign up there for a user, and they think maybe there's something there for them once they sign up. So they go and try to sign up. Not the end of the world for us. It's annoying, and obviously we would like to not have these kind of extraneous users in the system. So I implemented Cloudflare there. Bot protection as a part of that. The Cloudflare server that's between our BP Tech Center server and the bot that's coming in sees, hey, this isn't a user. Do this thing so that I can check to see if you are a user. They fail that thing, and it just blocks the traffic entirely. Because of that, obviously, your security is going to be better. If you have things that are regularly trying to get into your server, this is going to stop those. And then the other thing that's really nice about Cloudflare is the free tier is very liberal. You get a bunch of stuff included in that free tier. Obviously, way more features if you pay, but it's nice to get your foot in the door and at least try out for free because that option is there. So the requirements, couple things that you do need in order to make use of this. One, you need to have your server, supervisor in our case, be publicly accessible on the internet, and you want it to be publicly accessible on the internet. Obviously, you need to determine whether or not that's a good fit for you and your end user or not. But obviously, this isn't going to make your server private. It's not a VPN in any way. So just keep that part in mind. Like I said before, you have to be using standard ports for your HTTP and your HTTPS as a part of the free and relatively reasonably priced tiers. They don't reverse proxy any traffic other than HTTP and HTTPS. What this means is that for our Fox stuff, like I said before, you can't go through the Cloudflare reverse proxied DNS or domain name. You would have to use the IP address directly. And like I mentioned, you need a domain name in order to make use of this because of the way that it jumps in the middle of the connections. Domain name is required. You can buy those through Cloudflare, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video as well. I mentioned this already a few times. Traffic other than HTTP and HTTPS on standard ports will not work. You're adding an extra layer of complexity to your architecture. This means that there's another point of failure. Not necessarily a bad thing because of what we're getting out of it, but it's important to keep in mind and keep an eye on in case that doesn't fit your need necessarily. And like I said before, you're still exposing your server to the internet. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, depending on your use case and your threshold for the kind of risk that you're willing to take with whatever you're controlling. But again, be mindful of it and make that decision knowing what you're doing. And then I also have a little flow diagram here of our demo that is making use of this Cloudflare reverse proxy to do our SSL signing. And you can see for our users, our end users, that's going through Cloudflare, and because of that, they're getting their signed certificates that that every browser is going to trust, and that works great. And for technicians or like myself, if I want to log in with Workbench into the demo and make a change on something, I'm using the IP address to get into the supervisor. I'm not using the domain name through Cloudflare in order to get in. And then for our communication between devices and our building itself, because our supervisor is running in AWS, we're using a TazzyBox lock in the building and a soft key at the supervisor to talk to that lock and bring the communication and data in securely that way, because I don't want to punch holes in our building network in order to make that communication work. Last thing that I'll note in this video is if there's anything IT related that you want to dive more into, Cloudflare's Learning Center has a ton of really great, really approachable information about any matter of IT related server hosting information. So for us, their SSL breakdowns are super good and explains exactly how SSL works, how certificates work, and the meanings of the wide variety of acronyms. That's all there and for you to check out. So hopefully you learned a little bit. Hopefully maybe this interests you a little bit. You can see some value in something like this. In the next video, so next week, we will be taking a look at how to implement this, sign up for a Cloudflare account, do the little bit of setup process involved, and then have our publicly signed certificate on our publicly accessible demo supervisor. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll see you then. Thanks.